Good afternoon. Welcome back to another rendition of the B&H Virtual Event Space, the first of 2023. So a welcome and a happy new year to everybody. You are all tuned into On the Journey to Becoming a Bird Photographer, the how, the when, and the why with OM Systems Ambassador Emilie Talpin. Emilie, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. And it's a perfect day.
It is. It's a perfect day. I watched your nice video on the B&H Instagram page. So it was like a nice precursor to this. So I just got back from a trip where I saw a lot of birds. So I needed this webinar 2 weeks ago.
Oh, no, you should have contacted me sooner, And
I know. I'm it's an excuse to take another trip.
Exactly. And right now is the perfect time in New England. We actually have snowy owls and a lot of owls. It's been very fun actually shooting. I've been out every day.
Well, lucky you. I've been here in my wonderful abode, but we're gonna go take a walk outside and get into nature with you. We're gonna turn it over to you, but before we do that, I'm gonna remind everybody, if you do have any questions along the way, Emilie has opened up the line, so don't wait until the end. If there's something and it's relevant, get your question in. A special welcome to everybody joining us across the reaches of the internet, Facebook, live stream, Vimeo, on the B&H website. So huge welcome to everybody there. And Emilie, show is yours.
Excellent. So let's get started. Oops. So I hope you can see that well. I'll put it in full screen.
Yes, you can.
Excellent. So welcome for this talk that I actually called On the Journey to Becoming a Bird Photographer, the how, the when, and the why. And I have my info here. If you want to, you have any questions at the end of the talk, just also feel free to reach out on my Instagram. And I also have a YouTube channel. I post videos every Sunday, so join in. And I thought I would start with giving you the program. I'm going to start with just a little bio. I'm sure a lot of you might not know who I am. And I'll show you a couple of sample images of my work and talk about the goal of this talk. And then we'll go in the how with the gear and how to prepare in and outside the field. And then we'll talk about the when. When is the best time to go shooting? And when is the time to shoot or not to shoot? And we'll end with the why. So photographing with a purpose. And I have three cases that I want to show you, three different bird colonies and story I'm going to tell, and then we'll go into the Q&A. But again, if you have any questions, just post them now, and I'm happy to answer them. So first of all, my name is Emilie. I'm the Seacoast president. I'm the president of the Seacoast Camera Club in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. But you can tell with my accent, I know I am not from America. I'm actually from France, from a town called Chalon-sur-Saône. It's near Dijon, Burgundy. So right here. And it's actually where photography was invented. It was invented by Nicet Fornieps that you have right here. So if you ever in Chalon, stop by, there is a great photo museum. And that's actually one of the first ever oldest known camera photographs still in existence. It is not in France. It's actually in the US, in Austin, Texas. They show it, but not very often. They show it for, a special group of people, but that's the photo. So it's kind of interesting for me to think, hey, that's really my cultural heritage. I grew up where photography was invented, but I came pretty late to photography. I actually already started being serious with photography in 2018, so it's pretty recent. And I've been an OM System Ambassador for a year now, and I'm extremely thankful. It's been really an amazing opportunity for me, and a big shout out to the OM System team. They're so supportive. I've learned so much from them, and yes, thank you again so much. So I started with OM System, and at it was actually Olympus at the time. And they had this great program for new photographers and young photographers, the young upcoming photographers. And I'm not that young. I don't know if you can see all my gray hair, but I did apply, and I got in because they realized that you don't have to be super young to be an upcoming photographer. And I was very lucky. I was selected, and my proposal was to do a series on a beaver family that was in a pond where I just moved in the capital of New Hampshire, Concord. And it was right during the pandemic. I was very sad to go into the city. I know you guys at B&H, New York City is not Concord. Concord is pretty small. There's forest everywhere. But I thought, oh my God, I'm done. No more wildlife for me. But that was actually the total opposite. I find this family of beavers and all the wildlife around it. That's actually my favorite beaver. I call him Barry Tyson because his tail is half eaten. So it's really I feel like I have a special connection with this beaver on the pond. And that's again one of the little one. I took that a few days ago. Actually, I'm always out at the pond, and beaver ponds are a great place because there are a lot of birds that are attracted by water. Everywhere you have water, you will have birds. So thank you for the beavers for making this pond for me. I started really also with macro photography. That's really my first passion. So I do a lot of macro. Here are a couple of samples. That's a red eft. All those are taken in the forest. Or I love bees, same back at the pond. The frog, the eyes of the frog. I love to concentrate on details. And I also just, open my door, and here I have all the amazing subjects like this butterfly, the sweet bee, the hoover. And I always have my camera with me because with OM system and with Olympus, they have very small cameras. So it's very easy for me to carry them everywhere I go. It's actually next to me on this table. You never know what can happen, So this is going to get the mail, and just on the railing, there are always some flies. So, and I also, when it's too cold right now in New Hampshire, it's actually not very cold. I love to do refraction photography. So you put a water drop, and then you have an image that refracts into it. So that's kind of what I've done. But recently, I've been really interested in bird photography. And that's actually another one of my refraction. I'm kind of a patient photographer, which actually being patient with macro really help with bird photography and vice versa. So that's why even if you are just a macro photographer, try bird photography because it's good to pair those two together. And I would say that I am a bee photographer. Bee, because if it starts with a bee, I will probably want to photograph it. So bears, birds, bugs, bubbles of water. And if I have the two bubble and bugs, I'm definitely gonna have to take a photo of it. So the goal for this talk is really to encourage you to go outside and to try bird photography, even if you are not a bird photographer. Because as I say, I think you can learn a lot and it will help you in various aspects of your life and also various aspects of your macro photography, your landscape photography. And so that's what I'm hoping to achieve. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate, put them in the comment. So we are going to start with the how. And here is a little palm warbler that I took at the local Audubon Center in October. And the how is mostly gear, right? How do I start with bird photography? Well, the thing is, for bird photography, you don't need many things. You really need three things: a camera, a lens, and obviously a memory card, right? And hopefully the battery comes with your camera, and it's don't forget to charge it. Ideal for camera is you want a camera that's fast, that has maybe bird detection, that can really help you. It's not necessary, but it's definitely a plus, and a camera that has a lot of stabilization. Now, my checklist, my personal checklist, and we all have like different checklists, you know, the best camera for me might not be the best camera for you. But for me, what I want is a camera that's light, that's small, and that's multifunctional. And that's why I went with OM system. I shoot with the OM1 right now. So that's the latest Pro camera. And why did I pick this camera? Because it's super compact. The stabilization is really amazing. And also I can do 50 frames per second in CAF and 120 in SAF. So that is a lot. I'm getting a lot of shots, right? I'm gonna have a lot of options with a bird in flight, for example, to make sure that I have the right position of the wings. And also, this is a great camera because of the computational technology in those cameras. They have Pro Capture mode and eye detection AF for bird, and they also have the dog and cats, and actually even works on beavers. So I think they should advertise it for more animal than this, because I keep hearing it works on more than just those 3 types of animals. And I want to talk to you a little bit about Pro Capture, because maybe some of you are not familiar with Pro Capture. If you are not, you've never shot with OM system or with Olympus. So Pro Capture is basically, I call it a time machine, because how many times are you in the field and you see this bird and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to take the photo of this bird when it flies, and you want that specific moment when it takes off. And how do you predict that? Well, this camera lets you actually capture the moment that you want by half pressing the shutter button, and then keep it, you know, half pressing it. And when you see that moment where the birds take off, you fully press the shutter button, and then basically you can tell your camera, I want you to take 30 photo. You can do up to 70 photo when you start pressing the shutter. So you have it here. It's from the manual of the OM1. So that's for the OM1. And then it gets all the photo ahead of time. Then that's the moment you want where the bird start taking off. And then it will record a few more photos afterward. You don't have to tell your camera to tell 70 frames. You can do 30. You can decide how many frames you want your camera to take. So it's really amazing, because you basically are not going to miss a shot. And some of you might think, well, that's fine because I can just do, you know, burst, yes, but maybe in between your burst of all those frames, you might miss the shot, and then that's not good for your shutter because you keep on accumulating. And the idea with Pro Capture is that it's a rolling shutter. So the images, if at 70 frames I still haven't seen what I would like to capture, those frames will be erased, and so it kind of rolls in until you have your moment. So great feature. So I'll show you here, not the best photo, but that's just, you know, to explain. So here I'm taking all those photos, they're getting in, and then you saw this one is the one I want. I fully press the shutter, and then it takes a few more photos. And here you go, you know I got that shot at the end. And then the second computational technology that's very important as a bird photographer is to have good AI detection, AF, so for birds. So here I have my bird, and with my OM1 camera, it will focus on the eye. Basically here it's a red square, but you have a white square for all your bird, and then it will catch the eye and will focus for you. I mean, it's pretty amazing. We are really, really lucky in 2023 to have all those options. Now let's talk a little bit about lenses. What type of lenses do you want? Well, ideally, you want a telephoto lens. You want something that's fast. You want something that's, at least for me, not too heavy, because you need to be able to handheld those. And you also need something, a lens that's stabilized. Now, my lens is the Zuiko 150-400 f4.5, and it has a 1.25 teleconverter in it. So at the switch of a button, I actually am able to get even more reach. And this lens is basically the Ferrari to me of all lenses. And that you have to have a budget for it, but you can, have different telephoto lens that are less expensive. Like this one is the 100-400, Zuiko 100-400, a great lens, way more affordable. And I shoot with this for a year, very good lens. So that's basically your Toyota, and that's your Ferrari. Toyota is a great car, that's my car. That's what I have. I'm very happy with it. But if you have the budget for the Ferrari, then, go for it. Always invest in lens before you invest in a camera. And actually, the last thing that you will need is a memory card. And ideally, you want a memory card that's fast one, because it needs to record all those photos. So your buffer is not going to be like, I am too slow, I'm not taking more shots because I need time to write them on the card. So make sure that you're investing in a good memory card, and don't be cheap on that. You have maybe a very expensive camera. You don't want to be cheap on your memory card. And B&H had some great deal. I always, check. That's the ScanDisk are the one that I use, and they've been great for me. But there are a lot of different cards that you can use that are fast cards. So check out the deals with B&H. And then there are other gear, but they're optionals. So you can get a tripod. That's the one that I just started to use it with a gimbal head. I like gimbal head when you're doing bird photography. And you also have maybe a tripod if you don't want to carry a monopod if you don't want to carry a tripod. Personally, I hate tripod. I don't use them very, very often. I'm extremely clumsy, so that's one thing less that I have to worry. I'll take it. And with the stabilization in my camera and lenses, it's fine. I like to be manual when I shoot. I didn't want to take too much time with gear. I know a lot of people like to talk about gear, but I have a video for the bird photography series that's coming out on January 18, where I'll review all my gears. And I also give you different options. I shoot with a specific type of gear for professional photographers. Obviously, we're not all going to shoot with the same gear. You're not maybe a professional photographer. How do you start with gear that are less expensive? So I'll give you a lot of options that are also budget friendly. So I hope you tune in to get also some information. So now we have the gear. What are we doing with the gear? Well, the number one thing that you should be doing is you need to read your manual. I know reading manuals is kind of boring, but you do have to do it because that's how you get familiar with your camera, and that's how you understand the focus point. That's how you understand how to set up your camera properly. So again, you bought maybe an expensive camera. It's an investment to be a bird photographer. So make sure that you take the time to read the manual. and or watch videos. There are a lot of people making videos about setting and specific information on your camera. So make sure to do that, and then practice, practice, practice. Because if you have a camera but you never touch your camera, you're not going to get better. And if you think, I want to be a bird photographer and I'm going to go to Costa Rica and I'm going to photograph the quetzal, well, if you don't know your camera, if you haven't practiced with your camera, you're probably going to miss the shot. And you invested a lot of money with flying to Costa Rica, having this maybe new camera, this new lens. So make sure that you take the time to practice. I go out every single day with my camera, and sometimes I don't see birds, but I still carry my camera around, and I'm always trying to find something to photograph and practice. And you need to build that muscle memory. Very, very important, because birds are fast, right? It's like sport photography. You need to react very fast, and if you do not know how to change a setting in fraction of a second, well, you're going to miss your shot and get frustrated. So make sure that you're practicing, and especially for bird in flight. Where I live on the seacoast of New Hampshire, we have a lot of gulls, and so they make for a great animal to practice. I also have cormorants where I live in the city, and also just find a bird, a common bird, and practice on your common bird. And then educate yourself. That's what I'm doing. That's my goal, because I need to know my birds better. But my wife is always telling me, oh, there is a bird. And I'm like, oh, what type of bird is in the garden? Well, it's a long leg bird. Oh, it's a big wing bird. So I've realized that the long leg is the heron, and a small wing, probably a robin. But that's a good start, but you should definitely try to get better. You should know that's a robin. You should know that's a heron, right? And also when I started with bird photography, I remember, oh my God, it was so embarrassing. I went and met with local birders. Very thankful that I have some amazing friends who are birders. And so they saw me. I was very early in the morning, and they asked me, oh, what did you see today? Oh, I said, oh, just sparrows. And I thought, sparrows, what sparrows are sparrows. And the look of horror on their face, I will never forget it. And I was like, yeah, I probably need to know my sparrows, because there is a big difference between a house sparrow, a savanna sparrow, a white throated sparrow. I know they look pretty similar, but they're different. And clay-colored sparrow, which is kind of rare here. It was a big treat for us to see it. So don't think that a sparrow is a sparrow. Learn about your different birds, learn how to recognize them. And some useful tools to do that. eBird is a great tool. It's an app you can download. Merlin is also really, really good. And I'll talk about this as well in my bird series, and you can see how it works. So don't miss the bird series, because I'll physically be able to show you how it works. And also, go to your local Audubon. I'm a member of the Audubon, and they have really a lot of information for you and a lot of help. And then you can help too. You can help your local scientific community with iNaturalist. It's another very good app for everything. And that's my list of observation. And then people will comment. Yes, you're right, that is correct. That was a red-shouldered hawk. Oh, no, you're wrong. This is what it is. So it will help you learn and get better with identifying birds or insects or plants. So I really recommend this app. Now, let's talk a little bit about the when. So when can we go out and take photos of birds? Well, one of the answers that always probably you'll hear most of the time from photographers is golden hour. When is the golden hour? I have my phone, I have photo peel. I know exactly when the golden hour is. Right here this morning, the golden hour was from 6:58 to 8:04. So I know this is the best time to go and photograph. That's right. You have this beautiful soft light. So no shadows on your bird. And then look at that, the bokeh with all the sand. It's just very pretty. And then you can backlit, sorry, your subject, so baby plover. So yes, that's a very pleasing image because the light, sorry, is so soft. But you know what? Maybe it's after golden hour and that day you had a lot of fog. Well, great, go out, because that is also a very pleasing light because the sun is filtering the light. And even right after golden hour, that's a mute swan out in Yellowstone, and the reflection was just, it was a very peaceful morning, just beautiful, and the wolf were actually howling in the distance, just a great moment to share. So every time I see this photo, I also hear the wolf howling, great time to go and shoot. Blue hour, it's also another good time to shoot. Here I post-processing to really emphasize that blue hour, and the fog was coming up, and you had that harrier who was just on that one tree waiting and looking for you know, its next prey. So yes, those are great time. Now, right now today, it's gray. It's not the best, but it's actually not the best for me because I like, you know, a sunny day. But as a photographer, I love that. I love that gray because I can do high key images. And here that's a high key in black and white. So I will not overexpose, but I will push my histogram to the right and that opens all the mid-tone. And then this is the type of images you can have, very clean. And that's why high key is. And it's great with wildlife, especially when you have an overcast, especially a bright overcast day, because it looks like, you know, I put a whiteboard right beyond that hawk. And high key is all about minimalism. So, you know, isolate your subject, just one branch. I like to leave a lot of negative space also. I'm very inspired by Lisa Langle. She does that, you know, thinking of how to change, to make your images a little bit different. Maybe in a competition, if you're in a camera club, that would not go well. But I think in an artistic way, it works. And then bright sunny day, probably 11 o'clock right here. Well, not the best time, but you know what? I don't stop shooting. I shoot morning, day, and early nights if I could. I don't use flash with birds. But here, the problem with the sun is that your colors are washed out. You can see here, I love the colors behind, but that was not the right time. And so how about black and white? You know, if the color is too harsh, if the sun is too harsh, if it's washing your colors, then put your image in black and white. That, you know, is something you can do. Now, when do you find birds? Well, you find birds all the time, but you also need to know your birds again, because in the winter, if I'm in New England, I'll be able to see a snowy owl. But in the summer, I will not find a snowy owl. I'll definitely find a least tern. So knowing your bird, knowing your migrating bird, knowing the birds that are, you know, common in your area, it's very important. Keep a little journal where you write down all your observation about when they're coming back and the different type of birds that you see. So when to shoot? Well, you're very excited. You see these birds eating, that's a little robin, it's eating all those frozen berries. But you want to take the time to observe your surrounding, right? I know I'm guilty of it. I see something and I click, click, click. Okay, that's great. Maybe I have 1 or 2 shots, but now I need to stop. I need to think about my composition. I need to think about my background. The background is so important when you're photographing birds. So After a while, I, thought this background was not working, so I had to move around. And here, that background is actually very pleasing. It's complementary with my subject. And here, that's a killdeer. It was in the middle of a roundabout. Very, they decided to raise their little chick there. And I've had followed this family for maybe an hour and a half, and I couldn't find the right background. And then all of a sudden, on that roundabout, moves to the top, and I can see the cars behind it. And it looks like it's kind of night, but it's not. Those are just the bumpers. And the sun was very bright, and it was basically reflecting. So you've got a kind of a bokeh, and I thought it worked well. That's the best shot I could get that day. So just be creative with your environment. Try to anticipate what could I use and where is my bird going, and then start thinking already ahead of time of where of your background, where you want this background, where you want the bird to stand, because the background will help your photo definitely. So keep that in mind. And then when, well, all the time. I told you I shoot morning, afternoon, and end of the day. But I also have my camera with me all the time, even when I go shopping or here. I think actually I was in the hospital, unfortunately, and I thought, oh well, I have my camera. I'm waiting, so let's take a photo, because this Finch was there, and the background was working very well for me. I like the blue and the red and the green. Think of complementary colors as well for your background to meet with your bird. And then sometimes maybe some people are like, well, okay, that's a snowy owl, but it's on a roof. This doesn't work, right? What can I do? Well, just move around, look for different angles. There is snow right here. How about moving to the left and see if I could just have the snow and the snowy, so I don't see the roof anymore. So always have that in mind. I know it's always very exciting to see a bird, especially a bird like a snowy owl, but you need to slow down and you need to think about your foreground, and you need to think about your background. Here, not much to do, it's blue sky. And then I told you want a nice, pleasing background, but forget about this. In my opinion, if you have a bird that's hunting, if you have a lot of actions, well, okay, here this is a fun shot. This is a barred owl that has been hunting this little mole, and it took maybe like 5 seconds for it to gobble it down. So you have to be fast. You have to know your camera to get the shot, and then it's okay. Well, I have branches around. I could do something in post-processing, but I think the photo, works to tell the story because you have actions. And then here it was actually quite late. The light was not great, but it was so fun to see this osprey being able to fish. And I was at eye level because it was fishing very close to a bridge, and it gave me a lot of opportunities. And I was not in this area for a very long time. So I just, practice and get those action shots and get the interaction between the parents and the kids. And then again, when do you press the shutter? Think of the number of birds you have on in your frame. An odd number is always better than having 2 birds most of the time. So here there were a couple of, those are sanderlings, sorry, and they're go in groups. So you need to kind of pay attention to all of them, see if you can isolate them, and isolate them not in pairs, but 3 is better or 1 is better. And then I told you, again, rules are always meant to be broken, but it's good to know them. I think if you have some kind of stories, then it's okay. You have 2 birds, obviously they're interacting. Those are little plovers, and they're extremely territorial, or they, do not like to leave, to share their space, even if they're with their own species. So this works because you're telling a story of this really angry, they look like angry birds, right? That's what they remind me of. And then think about your background as well. How do you isolate your subject? And here I just love the texture of that dry marsh. The water left, it was quite dry. So I thought it was a good story to tell about this little bird. Now, when to shoot, but also when not to shoot, because remember, if you want to be a good bird photographer, you want to be ethical. I've been hearing more and more stories of people, feeding the animals, of people harassing the animal, and shouldn't happen. Never should you put your subject in danger. So make sure that you are ethical. If you see an animal that's maybe hurt, stop shooting and call wildlife, fish and game, sorry. So make sure that the wellness of your subject come first, not the image you're going to capture. So just keep that in mind. And then really be ready to shoot anything, because especially when there is bird, there's very often predators. So again, you need to know your camera. And I put this here because it's flying. So technically it works, flies kind of like a bird. No, so maybe. So here that's a coyote who likes to hunt in the marsh. And they're always fun to see. So I know that when I go and photograph birds, I also need to be ready for any type of wildlife. So now let's talk about the why. So how did I started with bird photography? Well, very often when you ask birders, you don't ask them how they started with bird photography. You ask them about what their spark bird is. And a spark bird is a bird that raised some interest. What is the bird that really raised your interest in bird viewing, in being a birder or being a bird photographer? And to me, my spark bird, at first I thought, there is that very rare bird in Spain that I would love to photograph. That's my spark bird. But no, that's not my spark bird, because my spark bird is really the bird that pushed me to invest in my time and my money to capture and record the behavior of birds. And that's really the leastern. And I'll tell you the story of the leastern in a few minutes, because right now I want to go into 3 different stories that I think are important to me, and I want to go through all the shots and kind of explain why I took them and how I composed them, and what is the story I want to tell. So my first case I want to talk about is the stork colony. So I'm from France, and in Burgundy, where I live, when I was young, we never seen storks. Maybe once in a while there would be a couple that would stop by. So it was very unusual. They're usually in the north of France. But recently, they actually decided to settle in my village. So you have a colony of stork. It started with just a few storks, and now I can't remember how many of them there are, but it's pretty impressive, way over 30 storks in that small village. And they're in a very accessible area. And it's been extremely interesting to go back home and be able to photograph them and kind of understand their behavior in the colony. So this one is one of a bird that I like the most, because it would always stand on one of the tree. There's a little bit of a sad story with it, unfortunately, at the end, but they're just really pretty birds, and they're nesting on those dead trees. And even now, because there is not enough dead trees, they started learning how to land on the trees with full foliage. It's really impressive to see them, because they have a huge wingspan. And it's pretty fun to see them being able to get into some of those trees. But usually they prefer, the chimneys, they prefer open spaces because of how they land. And here you have two families of stork on the same tree. And so I wanna, when I'm following like a story like this of birds, I wanna get as many different shots as possible. So I want the story of the family where they nest. I want the story of the, stork flying at sunset here. I want the story of the stork flying in the plains. That's where they eat. They eat actually frogs, rabbits. They're pretty destructive birds, actually. Here they have their little babies in May, and you see the mom and the dad together. So you see those gigantic birds landing on those, and you're thinking, how is that not going down? The nest so well built. And I told you I shoot. Doesn't matter if I don't have enough light, because I want to record behaviors, and I want to understand them better, because if I understand them better, I will know what to look for. And maybe that's not a great shot, but now I know, yes, in the evening they go and look for hay, because right here you see you cannot see the head of the stork. That's because it has a batch of hay. It just went in the field along that river, and you got all the hay that is bringing back to its baby. And this one is the bird I showed you earlier. I called it Patrick because Patrick is my uncle. Hi, Patrick. I don't know if he's watching, but my uncle Patrick is a little bit clumsy, and like me. And this bird was extremely clumsy. I mean, you see, it's no vision. He has that batch of hair, and he's trying to make a landing. And this poor Patrick, it did not go well. You could see the bird, the wing clipped. He ended up in the tree, and you can already see that the partner knew something wrong is going to happen, but it's a pretty usual story. So it goes down in the tree, lose all the hair, collapse on the kids. You can see all the hair flying here. She seemed pretty annoyed with him, or at least I think that's a him. It's just fun to record that, and to understand their behavior and know where to look for. And after that, I thought, this nest is not a good nest to shoot. I need to make sure that I find a nest that's really in the open. And my idea was I really wanted to find the family of stork and have one of the parents, going and getting the food. So here, always think about what type of crop you want. And for me, I think it works. I want the two birds, and I want a little bit of a tight crop here. And this one also is showing the behavior of the stork when they go back to the nest. Every time they're going to greet each other, and they're making that amazing sound with their beak, and they do that little dance every single time. Shoot again at sunset. So it's just a great moment to be able to capture and share. And also, unfortunately, when you're a bird photographer, you'll find some, sad moments. One of the tree that Patrick was landed on did not make it. That nest collapsed and killed. There were 5 babies on the nest, and 2 only survived, and the rest, unfortunately, did not make it. So it was a sad story. So those 2 young stork were just on the ground, and I don't know if they made it or not, because I had to go back to the US a few days after. You just have to capture all the stories, and even the sad one in that case. Now, my second story is the garnet colony. For this story, I actually had only a few hours to spend with the northern garnet. They're beautiful birds, and they are in colony. This is out in Gaspé, in one island out of the coast of Gaspé, where they nest. That's the second biggest colonies of northern garnet in North America. And you can get actually pretty close to the birds because they do research. And here the goal is, okay, I have this colony, what do I do? You know, do I fill the frame with all those birds? Can I isolate one subject? Here it doesn't work because I have those two subjects and no, not working for me. So rethink, what am I going to do? It's baby season. Babies are usually pretty cute. Well, I don't know. I shouldn't judge babies, right? All babies are cute. But this one somehow doesn't do it for me. So I'm not going to focus on the baby garnet, especially when they're eating. So I'm thinking, well, I'm going to focus on the couple because like the stork, you know, they greet each other. So they touch their beak and the male or the female will go and actually pinch the neck of the partner who comes back. So I thought, yeah, I could do that, but still the background is pretty busy and I just couldn't get the right angle. So it wasn't working very well. So I move around the colony. I find some shades and I find this bird and they're very territorial around the nest. They're very close, but you need to have a little bit space around the nest. So here I thought, oh, maybe that's the story of the garnets, you know, being a little bit upset and protecting the nest. But I'm still not sure. I don't like, it's too aggressive for me. So then I'm like, well, you know, the story is really those eyes, because those eyes are just gorgeous, that blue and that white, black, and light yellow. It's so pretty. So I find an individual that's on its own, a little bit isolated, and is getting ready actually to fly, and he's kind of puffing himself and taking a lot of air. It's very fun to watch. And I think, yeah, this is a good background because it's a neutral background with that kind of earthy field behind. And here I decide to have an aperture that's, I didn't decide to shoot wide open because I wanted to have the beak, the eyes, everything in focus. But you can see the background is not pleasing. It's very distracting. It's just a lot of small elements. It doesn't work out for me. So I continue and I decide to shoot wide open, but I'm making sure that, you know, my eyes are clear. Some people will say, yeah, the idea is the eyes, you know, what you want to focus in, it's okay. Some people will tell you, no, I want that beak to be in focus, but here it didn't work. I didn't have the distance, and so I couldn't have that very nice, smooth background. So then I decided to move around. Well, actually, the bird also helped me with this one. And so here it was actually building its nest. So I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to do a shot and I'm going to have the bird to the side. And I'm going to focus on that little blade of grass with the eyes. It works. I like the background. But then I'm thinking I'm going to go even closer. And that story is really the eye. So I tried different angles. And at the end, I ended up with this shot. I always think also when you're shooting, you know, the triangle. So you have a couple of triangles that are structuring your image. And really the star is that big blue eye and that transparent eye. So that was my story. And sometimes you can tell a story with just a portrait. You know, it doesn't have to be the interaction like we had with the stork. And actually, this photo ended up in being one of in the top 250 of NANPA for the 2023 competition. And the last story I wanna talk about is the least-tern colonies. So I told you the least-tern are they're my spark bird. They are the bird that really raised my interest for bird photography. And this is a little baby, a little chick, a least-tern chick, and they are so cute. They have such expressions. They are very there's so much emotion because all they want to do is eat, and they will do everything they can to have the attention of their parents to get the food. Unlike the plover, who, you know, as soon as they are born, they go on the beach and they find their food. That's not the case here. That little guy is depending on its parents to bring food, and depending on his parents for quite a long time. So here you can see the interaction with one of the parents bringing the fish back for the little one. The action happened honestly in like a second. They grab the fish and they swallow it all. So you need to know your camera like the back of your hand. Otherwise, you will miss the action. And you also need to understand, you need to observe how the whole process works. Because again, if you don't really know what you're looking, if you don't know the process, you will also miss the action. And I'll talk about it in a minute. Here, the Listern usually have 1, 2, 3 babies. Here, this one had 2 babies. And so they take turn feeding. And sometimes there is one who asks more food than the other and gets fed more. And as I tell you, they're so expressive. So the terns, they fish, it's a colony of terns, so they nest together and the parents go to sea and they go in groups. And when they come back, you hear them. They're like calling and the sound is really amazing. You just have to hear it, so loud. And those little guys, they know, oh, dad is coming back, mom is coming back. I have to run. I have to show myself to make sure that I'm going to get the food. They are so small. They actually use, the grass here to protect themselves from the predators. So they hide in the grass. And when the dad or the mom comes back, they go and they scream for their food. So here, that's this one is, I don't know how old it is, but it's super young. I mean, look at that. Look at those little feathers. Probably a few days, maybe even less. And the parents will land and will try to find their kids, their chicks. And sometimes they don't get the right one, but they know they're not going to give the fish to someone who is not their own. And here you have 2 confused parents who are trying to figure out, did I land in the right place? Is that where I should, who I should hand the fish to? When they're not hiding on their own, very often they spend time under their mom. So under the wings, you can find them. Makes for great photo. This was a little bit a bright day, but and I told you they are going to spend a lot of time begging for food from the adults. So that's the Listern, the small little one. That's the bigger one. And it's still, being fed by the adults here. And they're just very beautiful birds, and you can tell it's not completely black here. It's still a bit of brown. And they're always fighting, they're in a colony, they're like human. Picking at each other, and you see them coming, every now and then. You see all the birds coming, and then you maybe have to wait half an hour, 45 minutes, and then you have the second batch coming. And so you have a little breakdown to observe. But when they come, it's going to be fast, and you're going to have to be ready. And then tell your story, and telling your story is not always about just having bird photography. It's also about making sure that you have the context, the environment. Where is that bird? Because with the photo that show you, you don't know how close they are from actually people. They are literally on the beach. Those people are swimming, and that fish is doing its little job. It's bringing the little fish to the babies, and you see all those people interacting. So I think it's kind of like the human interacting together and the birds interacting. So you have a good story here. And then maybe you want photos that do not have birds, because maybe you want to tell a deeper story, a story of conservation. I think as bird photographers, we have our goal should be to help our subject to survive, right? The plovers, for example, are an endangered species, so they are protected, and the Listerns nest next to the plovers. So they're lucky because they get the protection that the plovers have. So there are those ropes around to protect them. We ask people to, keep off the dunes, but you can see here, be careful, this plover. Well, this person just throw its seed there. The interaction with the humans It's pretty impressive. And some people definitely don't read those. So when you're out with your lens, it's a great way. What are you doing? Because people might not see the plovers, people might not see the terns. They hear them, but they don't see them because they're so small. But you're there with your big lens. Tell them, tell people what you are doing, and that will help the birds to be protected. Fish and Game is doing a great job at informing the public, but you can see those plovers and terns are right there, right on the beach. And unfortunately, one of the major problems for the plovers, those little babies who have to feed on the beach, are people. And they are so small that sometimes you don't see them. And that's number one. I think like 2 years ago, yeah, they find some people who stepped on the baby plover. So educating people when you're out of the field is also part of why you are a bird photographer. You want to protect your subject and you want to do something good. So to conclude, I think that you need to photograph with a purpose, and your photo should really exist because you have a goal, right? After all, you push that shutter. You wanted to take that photo, so do something with your photograph. You can be very creative, and as photographer, your imagination is really the only limit. I like to do macro photography, and how about feather with a water drop? Try putting a water drop on feather. Water is not made to be on the feathers. That was not easy, but here that's a little snowy out. So I can reuse some of my photo to put in my macro work. So get out there and see what you're gonna get. And maybe it's not the best shot, but maybe you can also use that shot for a different purpose. And I promise you, if you start taking bird photography, you're gonna start to see birds everywhere. Now, when I do macro, I'm starting to see birds when there is no birds, like with those ferns. And also, I want you to have some key points, some takeaway from this talk. So some of the takeaway, I think, are knowing your gear, practicing. You want to educate yourself on birds, and also stay ethical. No photo is worth injuring an animal. And then tell your story, but also have fun, because that's what photography is about. It should be about having fun and then sharing and inspiring others. I love to go on Instagram and see the work of everybody. I'm always very, very inspired by other photographers, like some of my friends who also are OM System Ambassador, like Steve Ball or Lehigh. I mean, look at that Cara, pretty cool. Or Keith, Eric. So I recommend, go and check other photographers. Tom Kuchara and Lisa Kuchara also are photographers who live pretty close to me, and they are a source of inspiration. Or Peter Baumgarten, who's up in Canada as well. I just love to go and see what other people are doing, because that will help me be more creative. That will help me to kind of visualize maybe a shot that I want to have in the future. So it is already 1:58. I know I had about an hour to do this talk, and I really want to take questions from you. And if you want to, follow me on Instagram and send me an email as well, you can. But feel free, if there are any questions, send them my way.
Awesome. Emilie, thank you so much. I even love what you did at the end there. It's like when you start to see birds everywhere. It really, some people just don't I'm going to say I'm some people. I don't see things that creatively. I need to open my mind and kind of see things differently. But I do want to start away from all that creative stuff and get down to the gear and the settings, because we did have a lot of people asking about that. So if we could, let's just start number one on the Micro Four Thirds thing right there, because we did have people who commented about it. What is it about Micro Four Thirds for you? Why are you a fan of the Micro Four Thirds system?
Yes. So first of all, I mean, I know some people were saying, well, this is big for a Micro Four Thirds, but I mean, this lens I can handle, zero problem. And it looks big because of the hood, but I'm a fan of Micro Four Thirds because I have a really bad back and I cannot carry very heavy equipment. And the best camera and lens that you ever have is the one that you have in your hand. So to me, that's number one. I want a camera that I have in my hands. I used to shoot with another company, and that was not working because I would abandon some of the lenses that I would need, and I would not carry my camera with me all the time. So that's my number one advantages for why I switched to a macro four third. You also have the crop factor, so I get so much reach. So you double it. So here it's up to 400. That's 800. This is huge. That gives me a huge reach. And also the computational technology, it's really out of this world. I want a camera that's going to do everything for me in a way. They can give me that peace of mind of, oh, I have this great idea, but you know what? I don't have my ND filter with me. Not too bad. That's beautiful waterfall. I'm not going to be able to slow down the water and have that creamy water. I have ND filter in there. I can do that. I can handheld my shot, zero problem. I want a focus stack because I'm a macro photographer. The function is in there. The camera can focus stack up to 15 images, and the technology is really good. Most of my images, my macro images, are focus stacked in camera. So I like that it's a camera that's working with me, not against me. And then I know some people are saying, well, it's only a 20 megapixel camera. So macro four third, like 20 megapixel camera, nah, that's not good in 2023. And I'm like, why is this not good? How many megapixels do you need? And actually this camera, I can get up to 80 megapixel, but only when I choose to get 80 megapixel. I think on the tripod is 80 megapixel, but handheld, I can get 50 megapixel. That's plenty. And when you see photographers like Rafley Hopkins, who is an OM System Ambassador and is also a Nat Geo photographer, or Jed Ickerman, is also a National Geographic photographer and a Pulitzer Prize. They use OM system, So I've been hearing a lot of people say OM system, and I'm like, well, if it's good enough for Ralph and Jay, it's definitely good enough for me. And you don't need like that many megapixel. Are you going to print it on the side of your house? Most of us won't. And some people do need that. That's completely fine, and they should definitely get a 100 megapixel camera. But for me, no, I don't need that. I'm fine with what I have. And with all the advantages, I saw how much I progressed by getting my first Olympus camera at the time. And just having a camera that fits your need and that you're able to have with you all the time, that to me is worth any type of, megapixel in the world. I'll take that anytime.
Of course, it's like you want something that's more comfortable, easier to shoot. It's smaller file sizes for a lot of what we do, but I guess it's going to be that age-old high megapixel count versus low megapixel count, where people are always gonna debate it. They're always gonna argue it, and there's different cases for different uses and different cases that you can have. That each one is better. Now, as far as settings are concerned, we did have a lot of questions as well on your settings. Now, obviously, it's going to be situational, but for the most part, do you shoot manual, aperture, shutter priority? Is there like a kind of a baseline? We also had some questions regarding the use of auto ISO, if you do use auto ISO. Can you take us a little bit through your settings? What's auto and what you do manually?
Yes, definitely. So I start with, so right here on my camera, I can customize. So C1 is my bird in flight. And so I have some basic setting. I start with auto ISO and I start at 1250. And that's basically where I start. And then depending on how much light is available, depending on the type of bird, is it a hummingbird? I'm going to have to go way faster than this. Is it a heron? Is it a bird in flight? Is it a bird standing? I'm going to change my setting. But I have that one setting that's like my base, and then I'm going to have to modify it. So it's kind of hard to tell you, well, this is what I'm using, because there are times where I'm going to be in auto setting. I do not want to miss that shot. And that's why my C1 is auto ISO. That's my go-to. But then I'm like, I want more control. So I'm going to switch. I'm going to, manually set my ISO. So it really depends. But I shoot in manual, and then I make adjustment throughout my shot, my shoot. And shooting the same bird, I'm going to try different things, because I have a very good memory card, and then I can see which settings I like better. So don't think that, oh, well, this is what I have to shoot with. Well, try different options, and then when you post-processing, see which one works best, if that makes sense. And then I have a few things in terms of, so continuous AF is what I use, because I want to be able, if my birds, all of a sudden flies, go somewhere, continuous AF, I think for bird photographer is what you should be using. But maybe sometimes I need, so if I'm using bird detection, I have actually this button I have so many different settings. It's hard. I feel like it should be a 1 hour.
All the little like quick settings. And
I know. So I do back button focusing, okay, because it works. I think it works well if you're a wildlife photographer. And then here, so that's my bird detection. So I click here if I want the camera to do the work for me. But then if I think like, I think it's okay, I'm going to do it on my own, then I just click back, and then I have more control. And then that little lever, so right here, 1 and 2. So I have all points selecting for focusing. So my camera can, detect all over the frame, the sensor. But then I can, if I switch, so I'm going to switch to 2, then it's a 1 small point in the middle. And so I'm going to switch, and I might start with all the point, let my camera do the work, and then I might say, well, now I'm going to take control, and I'm going to see what I can get. There was another thing I think I wanted to say as well about that. Yes, I also have my, I customize the focus point. So I use a small focus point. I use all the focus point for the bird detection. But sometimes if it's a bird in flight, I might do my own custom settings where I have like all the middle, like a big rectangular for the custom focus point.
Okay, perfect. And we had a couple of questions come in on Pro Capture. So Cindy was asking if you always use Pro Capture when you're doing bird photography. And John says he hopes to use Pro Capture in Colombia next week to photograph some hummingbirds, and asks if you have any tips for photographing hummingbirds.
So my tip is take me with you to Costa Rica. I'll come and help. First of all, no, I don't use Pro Capture all the time. I use Pro Capture when I know this bird is going to do something, but I don't know exactly when it's going to do it. So I don't want to miss that. That's when you use Pro Capture. And actually, David Smith is in the OM System UK team. He's the tech guru, and he has, if you go to the OM System channel, he has a whole, I think it's 1 hour, 25 minutes on just Pro Capture, and he answers all the questions and can tell you more about it. So I highly recommend to watch this video. But no, I don't use, short answer, no, I don't use Pro Capture all the time. And then for hummingbird tips, shutter speed. High shutter speed. If the hummingbird is stationary, then you can get away with a lower shutter speed and focusing on the eye on your own, and you get some cool thing because the wings are not going to be frozen. So just try different settings. I think Lehoy, who is also an OM System Ambassador, there's a lot of workshop on hummingbirds. And so he's a great guy to ask for hummingbird tips. I don't shoot that many hummingbird, but I would reach out to him as well. He's a great person to have. So it depends on is it also stage? Are you using flash? Flash for hummingbird is a must if you want to freeze the action. So definitely, pack a flash with you. But I'm sure you if you are in a tour, they might have told you that. If you're on your own, then definitely get a flash that will help you with the hummingbird.
Perfect. And we're going to sneak in one last line of questions right here. And it's for the people out there who may not have the money to invest in some of the, these super telephotos, 800,000 millimeter lenses, or top DSLRs or mirrorless cameras. For the people who are either just starting out, or they don't have the means, or they don't know if it's something that they're going to be interested, so they don't want to sink a lot of money into it. Do you have any tips, or do you have any advice for getting wildlife photos with maybe not the most ideal gear?
Yes, definitely. I mean, you can get wildlife with any type of camera, even an iPhone, so it's getting to know your subject and being able to get closer to your subject. But by closer, I don't mean run to an owl and take a photo with an iPhone, which I've seen people do. Bad idea. This is not
is that
good.
me? I think you saw me.
Is that the photo you have behind?
That's behind me over here. Let me lock it up.
No, so get to know your subject, and maybe you have a camera with that you use to do a street photography, and just set it up. And with your phone, you probably have an app on your phone that connects to your camera. Get inside your house and then take your photo very close to a feeder. Maybe you want to put some nuts for the birds, and that works. You can get great bird photography without a telephoto lens if you do that type of bird photography. And then a lot of people think that they always need the newest gear, and so you can get some amazing deal. I know you at B&H are selling some used gear. Go and look at the used gear, because right now even the OM1 EM1 Mark II, which is the camera I started with, this is you can get it for a really good price used, and it's a great camera. It might not have bird detection, but it's okay, A lot of people did amazing bird photography without bird detection. So you might not have all those little extra things to help you out, but a used camera might be the way to go. Or the OM5 also, it's a camera that's also a camera that's a little bit more affordable than the OM1. But definitely you can, just when you have the gear, you will find a solution to get the shot that you want. If that's bird photography is really what you want to do, and you can't afford one of those, big telephoto lens, even those ones, the 100, 400 is cheaper, but there is, I can't remember. There is another one that's not a pro lens. That's also a great lens to have. I don't want to say it's up to 300. So that's a way more affordable lens. And I know some people who, it's really impressive what they've done with a lens that is not too expensive for a telephoto lens, and small as well, very small lens.
So now I got to sneak it in. I lied. I'm going to get one more question because it kind of fits into what we're talking about here.
Go for it.
I know this is going to help a lot of people out there. Is there an ideal focal length that is there like a bar, like, hey, if you really want to get into this and you want to take it seriously, you are good with a 400 or you are good at 600? Is there like an ideal range for like most average bird photography?
I mean, yeah, 300 lens, that's great, but maybe you can't afford that, but maybe even 150, and then get a teleconverter. I mean, teleconverter are kind of harder to deal with, so you'll need a lot of practice, so maybe not the best way to start with, but I mean, I shot wildlife with this one when I started, so it's the 40 to 150 Pro, but 150, I still got some pretty good shot as long as you position yourself correctly. And it's all about that. Don't think about, yes, it's convenient because I'm further from my subject. Could I get closer to my subject? Yes, but I don't need to. So for me, it's kind of it's easy. That's why I like to have a telephoto lens, because I like to put the distance between myself and the subject. But if you have a shorter lens, then work your way through or wait for the birds to come to you. And that's usually the thing that you need to do. Learn about the bird, learn about the habit of the bird. They very often like to perch on the same branch. So if you see a bird, they kind of do the same routine. And if you see this bird perch, I mean, there is a cardinal that's always on that one tree at like a specific time. I know I'm going to go and find it there. Just be aware of your environment and do the work that you can't, that telephoto lens cannot give you. Well, do it on your own. Like, I don't use a tripod. I use myself as a tripod. Well, do that. Use your observation to compensate for the lack of, telephoto lens, so the lack of distance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Do the work.
Do the work.
We're relying so much on technology. Take it back to the analog days. Do the work, do the research.
Yeah.
You know what? That's a common theme we see with wildlife photographers that come on our channel here is the more you know about your subject, whether it's a bird or whether it's any other kind of animal, the better off you're going to be. You learn about their habits. You learn about to anticipate photos, and you learn how to position yourself. And I think that kind of helps, like you were saying, set you up. And you might say, hey, for what I'm looking to capture, I don't need to go out and buy an 800 millimeter lens. I can get it done with 200 millimeters. So wonderful, wonderful advice. And for those of you who are over there, like, how do I remember all this? We are going to have this archived along with the rest of our online content. You can check that out on facebook.com/BH Event Space or vimeo.com/BH Event Space. But Emilie, I want to send a huge thank you to you for sharing your experience, your wisdom, your knowledge with us today. And we dropped all your links in there. So if anybody missed those, roll it back, take a screen grab, and definitely check Emilie out to see what she has going on in the future. But that's all we got for today. A huge thank you again to Emilie for joining us. Emilie, any closing words?
No, I want to thank you so much and thank B&H for having me. Thanks to SYSTEM as well for doing the bird photography series with you. It's been so much fun doing this series. Had a great time. And I just want to encourage everybody to get out there. Just take your camera and start your routine. It's 2023. So if you don't have your New Year's resolution, maybe that's it. Go out with your camera every day and start learning about birds and learning about your surrounding and see what you can get. And any question, just send it my way. I'm always very happy to answer any of them. So thank you so much again for having me. It's been great. And I'll be checking the comments as well. So if you have anything, put them out there and I'll come and answer them.
Awesome. Huge thank you again to Emilie and, of course, the OM Systems team for making this all happen. That is it, though. That's all we got for you today. Another rendition of the B&H Virtual Event Space is in the books. We'll catch y'all next time.
Bye.